I'm generally a very optimistic person.
The whisper that started everything. It all began not with fanfare, but with a quiet whisper, the kind that often sparks royal mysteries. Kensington Palace, with its red brick walls and centuries of memory built into its foundation, seemed to sense a shift before anyone dared to speak it. For days, the palace felt as if it was holding its breath. Something delicate, extraordinary, and deeply personal was unfolding, something only the closest members of the household understood. Prince William and Princess Catherine were expecting their fourth child. There was no official announcement yet, because the palace always moved with calm precision, letting private joy settle before public curiosity swept in. Inside their residence, the truth glowed softly. Princess Catherine felt the familiar stir of new life, while Prince William, usually driven by non-stop duty, found himself pausing, watching her with a tenderness that softened even his deepest worries. Their family was growing again. Small choices hinted at the secret: Catherine stepping back from an appearance, William quietly declining an event, a senior aide adjusting schedules with unusual urgency. Staff noticed Catherine's changed routines and William's thoughtful silences, the way the couple moved around each other with renewed affection. In tiny shifts, a whisper took shape. One gentle morning, sunlight washed across the pale blue carpet as Catherine sat curled on a sofa, baby journals beside her, her hand resting softly on her abdomen. The room hummed with calm domestic peace, portraits watching from gilded frames, rain tapping lightly against the windows like a blessing. William entered with tea, paused at her expression, and said the world would eventually feel the shift even if no one yet understood it. She smiled, knowing some truths are too bright to stay hidden. In that moment, they weren't the future king and queen, they were simply parents awaiting another child. Their 3 children sensed the change without being told. George grew more reflective, asking about the future. Charlotte watched her mother closely, suddenly helpful in small ways. Louis, full of imagination, drew pictures of a bigger family with himself proudly at the center. But underneath the sweetness was a deeper discussion, one about destiny, legacy, and the power of a name. In the monarchy, a name isn't just a choice. It's history, identity, and a message to the kingdom. William approached naming like a future king, Catherine like a mother. They wanted a name elegant but gentle, historic but not heavy, meaningful without excess, something timeless that symbolized duty and love. Outside, the world remained unaware, though whispers of speculation began. A journalist noticed Catherine's absence. Overnight, murmurs turned to theories as royal watchers studied photos, analyzing gestures and expressions. But inside Kensington, William and Catherine focused only on heart, speaking softly after the children slept, balancing privacy with duty. Catherine said this 4th child felt like a gift, something sacred. She visited the old nursery, touching blankets once held by her other children, feeling the flutter of life inside her. William watched quietly, seeing not a public figure but a woman who had grown into a pillar of grace. Together, without words, they understood, a new chapter in royal history had begun, and somewhere in their quiet conversations, a name was forming. Life inside Kensington continued with its precise rhythm, yet underneath was a subtle tremor. Staff sensed it: William's contemplative air, Catherine's softer wardrobe, gentler meals prepared in case of nausea. Catherine found refuge in her study, reading letters from children, one suggesting the name Hope. It touched her deeply. William met with staff about privacy and timing, his eyes bright with joy. Later, walking through the gardens, Catherine told him she felt calm, as if the child carried peace. They spoke about names, courage, renewal, guidance. William told her King Charles was overjoyed and reminded him that names are messages to history. That evening, they reviewed names. For a boy, Edmund, Arthur, Frederick, Alexander, Philip, names tied to kings and warriors. For a girl, Eleanor, Amelia, Victoria, Helena, Mary, graceful, dignified, symbolic. They eliminated names heavy with expectation or tied to turbulent eras, circling only those that felt balanced and heartfelt. Meanwhile, aides noticed papers tucked away and whispered conversations. The first shortlist quietly took shape. One night, they told their children. George asked about responsibility, Charlotte asked if the baby would be a girl, Louis spun in circles and said he'd teach the baby to draw. Later, Charlotte asked Catherine about names, repeating them softly like she was testing magic. George asked William if a name shaped destiny. William said a name matters, but character shapes a life. Then everything changed. A trusted source leaked news, not of the pregnancy, but that the couple was discussing names. It was enough to ignite global frenzy. Headlines erupted, broadcasts shifted, social media exploded. Kensington staff scrambled. Should they stay silent or release a statement? William listened calmly, though visibly disappointed that something sacred had slipped outside their walls. Catherine, composed, suggested a simple update to calm speculation. Together, they issued a brief message confirming only that they were considering meaningful, historic names.